This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming with another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation, episode number 8. As I've stated before, with public libraries just shutting down without notice and only one giving people a warning, ran out of the movies on these two streaming sites, Canopy and Hoopla, and my friend's Netflix account, so I turned into a shady site where I don't want to get a virus on my laptop, so I haven't been that motivated to watch movies on my phone because the small screen is not really the best experience. So I haven't watched that many movies in 1 week, so I watched a couple in the last week, 2 weeks. So the first movie I watched was The Public. So it's like one of those passion projects Emilio Estevez wrote, directed, and starred in. Alec Baldwin played the hostage crisis negotiator, and they had to waste their time with his ex-wife being in the story, and you're like, why is she in the story? Like, there's no point if they're not together. Well, they're looking for the son who's a drug addict who lives on the street. And you're like, okay, why did that matter? It was a very silly, it was not a silly, but it was an unneeded scene that there was just a small little payoff tie-in at the end of the movie that was a waste. Now, Jeffrey Wright plays the head of the library who helped Estevez get the job because he used to be on the streets. It really helped him get back on his feet. But he gets sued because he told a homeless person who has mental problems and smelled bad to leave, so he was suing them. So instead of just saying this person has mental problems, he's homeless, don't listen to him, they were going to fire him. So on the same day that he was basically told that he better quit or they're going to fire him, it was also the day that his building manager, played by Taylor Schilling, had slept with him the previous night before and said she's going to check out a library card. That his coworker, played by Jenna Malone, was like, I want to transfer out of this department. But also, the library always has homeless people, and because he's a homeless person, he always looks out for them and lets them sometimes break the rules and whatnot and get away with things. And the homeless people were tired of being on the streets in Cincinnati because it was in the winter time, and it was very cold, and people were dying. So the homeless people decided that on that day that he was supposed to quit or he was going to get fired, they decided to stay in. They didn't want to go outside. They stayed in. They barricaded the stuff. The security guards couldn't do anything. His coworker was stuck there with him. And, he just took over as the person in charge because he really fell for the cause because he used to be homeless and the library helped him. And the leader of the homeless people was played by Michael Kenneth Williams. He's been in so many television shows and movies, like on HBO, so people really knew who he was. So he played the lead homeless guy, and they're all in there. And Kristen Slater plays the district attorney who, I don't know, I didn't know the district attorney can just come in and insert himself into any police situation. Yes, he's running for mayor, but again, he plays a jerk who's only worried about himself and being a mayor, and it's just like, you always play those roles, Slater. So I didn't really enjoy his part, nor Alec Baldwin for that part. The fact that, they tie in as his homeless son who's on drugs in the library. But it was a very, very good movie because it was for a good cause. Like Estevez going, I was part of this cause. I believe in the homeless people not being thrown out on the streets because there's nowhere for them to go. And in the end of the movie, the head of the library joins the cause. And it was just an overall uplifting movie, fighting for a good cause. It was very well written, put together, so that's Emilio Estevez's. And even though I'm not a big fan of Baldwin or Slater, they played the roles correct very well. The women were good in the movie. Jeffrey Wright, Michael K. Williams were. Gabrielle Union playing the reporter outside who may have shifted things that weren't true. Was pretty good in the movie. So overall, for a movie that was only like an hour and 50-something minutes, it didn't really drag on. It had a great story, great message, good acting. So it was a very good, positive movie. Now, there's not that many movies about libraries. The next movie that I watched was a children's movie. That was one of those top animated movies, that you go, wow, pretty much interesting type of movies where, it's got the Wallace and Gromit feel to it. So it starts Hugh Jackman, an adventurer, who wants to join the adventure club. It's like the early 1900s, and they're like, we don't want you in our rich old man club because you try to go for myth. Like, he tries to go for Loch Ness Monster. All these things, whole life is about finding that one long lost person, like all those myths if they're true. He gets a letter from a person in like the Pacific Northwest saying, I've seen Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. Why don't you come by and I'll show you him? And he finds out that it's actually Sasquatch himself, where he's voiced by Zach Galifianakis, very cute, adorable, doesn't understand sarcasm or jokes or saying. And he's like, I called you here because I want you to help me find my cousins who are, you know, the Yetis who are in the, Malay, in the mountains and stuff. Shangri-La, they got to go to these mountains. And, like the Himalayan mountains and stuff. And he said, if you help me find my cousins, I'll give you whatever you need to prove that I'm real, so you can be part of Adventures Club. And his whole life, he wanted to be part of the club. Mr. Link wanted to be part of the thing, part of a family because he's all by himself. Of course, the Adventure Club doesn't like him, and they don't care. So they hire Timothy Olyphant and a crew to try to kill him and go after him and make sure the discovery isn't true throughout the whole journey. So they got to worry about that. Then his ex-girlfriend, who married his friend, who's now a widow, has the map to where the Yetis are, and he's got to steal it. But then she goes on the adventure, and she's just like the moral compass, because she tells him, don't be selfish, don't worry about joining a club, you don't really need to be part of it, it's all about helping Mr. Link, finding his family, and it's a good adventure of friendship, finding a place that you belong, because he wants to be in the adventure club, Mr. Link wants to be with his cousin, realizing it's not about yourself. So it's an age-appropriate kids movie, and it wasn't that very long, so it blew by very quickly for like a less than 90-minute movie because of all the animations. There's lots of credit. So you should watch this movie. It's a great adventure movie, discovering, great voice cast. The animation's is pretty interesting. It's a good story about friendship and finding somewhere to belong. So yeah, you should go watch the movie Missing Link if you want to watch an age-appropriate kids movie that pretty much in this movie you discover that you really don't need to force yourself to be a part of a group. You should be part of the people that are near each other because he realized you have to be part of the adventure club and he maybe doesn't have to be with the Yetis. The two of them could be together. And maybe if they make a sequel, the two of them could be like Sherlock and Holmes. They go on looking for like mysteries of unsolved creatures and they can find them together. It's very interesting. Now the next movie that I watched was called The Intruder and it starred Dennis Quaid, who, you think is a sweet old guy who's a widower and his kid left and he's had this home for years in Napa wine country and he's been selling it for years. And Michael Ealy and his wife, who is played by Megan Good, buy the house for a steal with all this stuff involved. And they said he's going to go to live with us Florida. But guess what? He mows the lawn. He keeps coming back and intruding, taking care of the house, thinking that it belongs to him. He joins them for Thanksgiving. And Megan Good thinks, he's just a lonely old man. But Michael Ealy and his friend go, you know what? This guy feels like it's still his house. He's creeping, intruding. He's watching them from the woods. He's hunting in the woods with his car. He's not really staying at that hotel. That at the same time, he can't give up the fact that it's his house. And when it's his house, that he thinks that he won't give it up because they find out that he had to give up the house because he owed a lot of people a lot of money. The circumstances how his wife passed away are not cancer, not suicide, that he may have done it, that his children changed their name and they left, and that he never really wanted to give up this house that is Quaid. And, he played the fathers in movies, he played heartthrobs when he was younger, so he's got that smile on him, and you go, oh, and he's just a nice old person, wants to take care of the house, help you with the Christmas lights, mow the lawn, but reality-wise, Megan Good doesn't realize before it's too late that her husband was correct, because he gets knocked off the road. His friend goes looking instead of, telling him where he was, actually knocking on the door. Dennis Quaid takes care of him. He thinks that Megan Good could be his new wife. And before it's too late, it's not like a horror film. It's one of these psychological thriller films where you don't know who's going to survive and what's going to happen. And that you realize that Dennis Quaid, spoiler alert, is living in the house. Okay? He's not living in a hotel. He hasn't gone to Florida, and he wants you out of his house. That's why I call The Intruder. He's an unwanted person in the house. And so it wasn't really a horror film, and it was only, an hour and, 30-something, almost 40 minutes. It wasn't that long of a movie, and Michael Ealy this time is playing the good guy in the movie, not the creeper in the movie. Dennis Quaid did a very good job playing the weirdo in the movie, and I would suggest watching this movie, even though I basically gave away the plot of him, how he's the intruder, what's going on. But I'm one of those people, even if somebody told me it happened in a movie, I may not remember because there's so many movies out there, but it's definitely a movie you need to watch. Now, the next movie I watched was Donnybrook. Jamie Bell, good actor, people like him. But they say he's a former Marine trying to go for this big brawler of, brass knuckle fighting. And in that movie, that's his goal. So you would think they would show him fighting and preparing for it, or all the matches, how he gets there. but it's so confusing. The movie is like split. And the fact of the movie is an hour and 47 minutes, it drags on and on because you got a drug dealer selling to his wife and him taking his kids out of the thing, him robbing a bank. Then there's this detective who's after this drug dealer, and his drug dealer has a sister who also has her own agenda. And there's all these different plots going on throughout the movie that it takes away from the main story of former Marine trying to get his wife and kids' life normal by winning all the money at Donnybrook, and that he can salvage his life after what happened being a broke guy from the veteran and stuff like that. But the movie wasn't like that. Drug dealers and detectives, it's all over the place of a movie that you're just like, why did they make this movie if they're going to stray away from the main plot and waste our time and waste Jamie Bell's time? It was just not a great movie, not worth your time. This was a boring drama that was just not good. Now, the next movie I watched was Curse a la Llorona. It's one of these old school Hispanic curses where a woman killed her kids and then she's haunting everybody and looking for them. And the main actress in this movie, Linda Cardellini, she's supposed to be playing a Hispanic woman, or her husband was Hispanic, was a cop. She's a caseworker, and she checks in on these kids who haven't been at school. And it's a Hispanic woman, and the house is all lit up with candles, and she tried to protect her kids from La Rona. But then because she took the kids away from the mother, thinking it was the mother's fault why they were abused and they had burn marks and they died eventually, but realizing that it's not La Rona, the weeping woman, it was her, not the actual mother. The mother who's upset that her kids died because Linda Cardellini took care of, was the reason her kids were killed because they weren't safe. It was her fault. She told La Rona, you better bring my kids back, so then they'd attack Linda Cardellini's kids. And of course, she's got to not believe all this stuff because she doesn't really believe in religion, all this stuff. And she's got to protect her kid. And she has to turn to the church where Tony Amendola, Stargate SG-1 fan, I am here, of Braytech. He's like the father, the priest, and he tries to help him, but then realizes that he's not going to go above, so they have Raymond Cruz, who's a former Man of the Cloth. He, from Breaking Bad and whatnot, he's got all these rituals and things he does, and he's hired to help them, and it's all about surviving La Rona and saving the kids before it's too late. So yeah, this is more of a supernatural horror film, and it was very good. It wasn't that long. It was like 90-something minutes. Yeah, there was gore. Yeah, there was scary images and stuff. It was a pretty good movie, and the supporting cast was very good as well. So I'd suggest you watch if you want to watch a wise tale, historical, some wise tale in a way, with good actors, and a horror film. The next movie I watched was The White Crow. It was a biopic drama that went on for like 2 hours, and when I first read about it, I didn't know that it was multilingual. I thought it was just, English. It wasn't English because it took place in Russian and France, but when they talked in French or Russian, they had subtitles going on. And it was all about this famous ballet dancer who was given the name White Crow because he was unusual, born on a train. And he basically was told he's got to do all this ballet, and if he doesn't, he'll die, because the Soviet Union wanted all their talented people to only work for them and not fraternize with anybody else. So it was all about his flashbacks between his childhood, when he first started off in this school, when he advanced to the current time, and then times of when he was a little kid and his father came back from the war, things like that. So it was a little bit scattered, all the flashbacks. It wasn't just go from the past to the present. It was multilingual. It dragged on for a bit, but it was pretty good if you're interested in knowing about the Rudolf Nureyev, the dancer who defected from Russia to France. It was a pretty good movie, just wasn't the best movie, but yes. So White Crow, if you want to watch a biographical film that's a little bit long, multilingual. If you want to watch a scary movie, Curse La Rona, I suggest it. Good actors. Donnybrook was horrible. Don't waste your time. It was way too long and scattered all over the place. Intruder, great cast. Dennis Quaid did a great job in his role. Michael Ealy and Megan Good did a good job in their roles in this psychological thriller. And The Missing Link was the best movie I saw because it was a kids' movie with great messages, good voice cast, Galifianakis and Hugh Jackman. And The Public was a very good passion project by Emilio Estevez that had Alec Baldwin, Christian Slater, Gabrielle Union, Taylor Schilling, Michael Kenneth Williams, Jeffrey Wright, and Jenna Malone. It was a very good movie about public libraries and homeless people. Thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation, episode number 8 for On the Radar or Table Lock. See you guys next time.